Sir, please begin.
Thank you. ओम पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवती अष्टादशाध्यायिनीं सन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीं नमोऽस्तु ते व्यास विशालबुद्धे फुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयः प्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं भीष्मद्रोण तथा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरं करा दुर्योधनां वर्तिनीं सोत्तीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैरणनदी कैवर्तकः केशवः पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलं गीतार्थगन्धोतकं नानाख्यानककेशरं हरिकथा सम्बोधनाबोधितं लोके सज्जनश्च पदरः रहै पेपीयमानं मुदा वैयद्वारतपङ्कजं कलिपल् प्रध्वंसिनः श्रेयसे मुखं करोति वाचालं पंगुलंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानंदमाधवम्। आज के इस पवन पावित शुभ अवसर पर देव दीपावली और आज प्रकाश पर्व भी है और आज के दिन श्रीमद् भगवद गीता के बारे में जानना, श्रीमद् भगवद गीता को सुनने का जो शुभ अवसर हमें प्राप्त हुआ है, इसके लिए मैं परमपिता परमेश्वर का आभारी हूं। भगवान श्री कृष्ण और कुंती पुत्र अर्जुन का यह अद्भुत संवाद, विश्व का सबसे उच्चतम ज्ञान, प्रत्येक समस्या का उचित समाधान, जैसे शरीर को स्वस्थ रखने के लिए कसरत और अच्छे खुराक की आवश्यकता होती है, उसी तरह मन और मस्तिष्क को स्वस्थ रखने के लिए श्रीमद् भगवद गीता का स्मरण, अध्ययन या श्रवण प्रतिदिन 15-20 मिनट या आधे घंटे व्यक्ति को करना चाहिए। कुरुक्षेत्र के मैदान में असंख्य योद्धा युद्ध की रणभेरी बजने की प्रतीक्षा कर रहे थे। कल क्या होगा, कैसा होगा, इसका विचार किए बिना इसी बीच महारथी अर्जुन के मन में विरक्ति भाव उत्पन्न हुआ और मोह युक्त होकर कायरता में प्रवेश कर गए। उनका छात्र भाव समाप्त हो चुका था। अतएव श्री कृष्ण ने गुरु स्वरूप में अर्जुन को छात्र धर्म की तरफ ले गए और इसी संवाद को श्रीमद् भगवद गीता कहते हैं, जो महाभारत के भीष्म पर्व का एक अंग है। इसमें 18 अध्याय और लगभग 700 श्लोक हैं। गीता ज्ञान की सतत प्रवाहित मंदाकिनी है, जो हमारी संस्कृति को युगों युगों से पावन पवित्र सिंचित करती रही है। इस ज्ञान के समुद्र में हम जितना अंदर उतरेंगे, उतना ही ज्ञान की मोती हमें प्राप्त होगा। सिर्फ भारत ही नहीं, विश्व के सुप्रसिद्ध चिंतकों, विचारकों और साहित्यकारों ने श्रीमद् भगवद गीता को अनेक भाषाओं में अनुवाद किया है। गीता डॉक्टर हावर्ड, डॉक्टर स्लेंगन, काउंट मॉन्जलिंक, सर चार्ल्स वेल्स, गिलवंस, एडविन नामक प्रमुख ऑथर्स ने इनके ऊपर अपनी टिप्पणी लिखी है। डॉक्टर एनी बेसेंट ने 1895 में अपना ट्रांसलेशन पब्लिश किया था। डॉक्टर भंडारकर, महर्षि अरविंदो घोष, लोकमान्य तिलक, महात्मा गांधी, डॉक्टर सर्वपल्ली राधाकृष्णन ने भी अपनी टिप्पणी और अपनी व्याख्या श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की लिखी है। आज के इस पवित्र पावन अवसर पर हमारे बीच में HG बंशीधर प्रभु जी विद्यमान हैं। आप श्री हमें श्रीमद् भगवद गीता के बारे में एक डिटेल ज्ञान देंगे। हमारे बीच में ऑनरेबल प्रेसिडेंट डॉक्टर देवांशु पटेल सर, जिनकी प्रेरणा से ये स्पिरिचुअल लीडरशिप और स्पिरिचुअल क्षेत्र में किस तरह से हमारे विद्यार्थियों को, युवकों को और भारत के नागरिकों को ले जाया जाए, यह कार्यक्रम हमने प्रारंभ किया है। डॉक्टर पारुलबेन पटेल, डॉक्टर कोमल मैम, डॉक्टर गीतिका मैम, हमारे ऑनरेबल प्रेसिडेंट प्रोवोस्ट डॉक्टर MN पटेल सर, हमारे रजिस्ट्रार श्री डॉक्टर HS विजय कुमार सर हमारे बीच मौजूद है। डॉक्टर कुंजल सिन्हा मैम, डायरेक्टर कंटिन्यूइंग एजुकेशन के हमारे बीच में हैं। मैं आप सभी की अनुमति और आप सभी के आशीर्वाद से इस कार्यक्रम में एच जी बंशीधर जी प्रभु जी को आमंत्रित करता हूं। And let me grab the opportunity to invite Bamsidhar Prabhu ji on this auspicious occasion. Sir, he is by profession an electrical engineer, did from NIT Bhopal. He worked with Reliance Industries for years, and since a decade he's serving ISKCON Temple. He has served as Director Youth Forum Vadodara in ISKCON Temple, and currently he's a lifestyle coach, spiritual mentor, and guide to youth. It's our privilege. It's really a great time to all of us that we are going to listen H.G. Vamsidhar Prabhu ji sir. So स्वामी जी, मैं आपसे निवेदन करूंगा कि आज के इस पवित्र पावन अवसर पर गुरु नानक देव की जयंती पर हम सबको अपने पवित्र वाणी से हमें पवित्र करें। धन्यवाद।
Thank you so much, sir, for inviting me. I am very grateful for this opportunity. My connection with Pavel University is quite long now, more than 4 years. I met first time Pavel ma'am in 2016, and since then I am meeting, and one of my very close connection with Pavel University is Sir M.N. Patel sir. He is here only. M.N. Patel sir visits the temple also. Last year we arranged our youth festival, and sir also graced that occasion.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, sir. Thank you, sir. Nice. So I am very grateful for this opportunity of being in touch with such a institute, and Dr. Devanshu Patel, who is the president. I am grateful for them. Pavel ma'am and Dr. Geetika Patel, Dr. Komal Patel, who is the management trustee, then M.N. Patel sir, then registrar sir, Dr. H.S. Vijay Kumar sir, and Dr. Pavan Dwivedi, whom I met some time back, and he gave me the good news that Pavel University is starting the course on temple administration and spiritual education. That's the much needed course actually for the revival of ancient Vedic education. And then I congratulate Dr. Kunjal Sinha, who is the director for continuing education program. So these topics are told me that Bhagavad Gita for the students and the professors. Actually, Bhagavad Gita is such a book that it can address all the issues in the world. Like we present Bhagavad Gita sessions to students also, to teachers also, and we present to the corporates also, we present to the kids also. And amazingly, there is relevant subject matter for each audience. So Bhagavad Gita is such an amazing book, and spirituality is very scientific also. What thing which I saw in my childhood, and I have seen in other students also, when students comes out means around they come to 11th class or 12th class, their connection to their root is quite shaken by the scientific evidences and different things. So at one point of time, when the religion or spirituality is not given to them in a proper manner, in a systematic manner or scientific manner, many of the students lose their respect for the Sanatan culture, and they consider that these are just mythology. Actually, the word mytha means it is imagination, but the Vedic scriptures are not mythology, they are the history. In the 18th century, there was one book written by one high court judge about the Vedic literature. So he says 2 points considering that Vedic scriptures are not imagination. Vedic scriptures are actually truth. First consideration was, in India, before Britishers came, there was no concept of novel writing. Means fiction writing was not available some 500, 600 years back. Whatever was factually happening, they were presenting and writing it, because they knew once something is written on the paper, then people take it as a truth. So in India, the fiction started, novel started after the Britishers came to India. Before then, that whatever was written, that was the truth. Even when they were doing the dramas, they were doing the drama on Rama and Ram Leela and Ramayana, Mahabharata, different dramas they were doing only on the scriptures. So this is one of the proof that these scriptures cannot be fiction. Another proof is these scriptures are so detailed. Like in Srimad Bhagavad Puran, you see there is the lineage going on from the beginning of Brahma till now, and who will come after Kali Yuga. And so much detail is there. But normally in fiction, we don't see so much detail. For example, many of us are from the, like those who are of my age, they have seen Harry Potter movies or they have read Harry Potter novels. So when we see Harry Potter novels, we don't see so much detail. We see that his father's father is there, his mother is there, but we don't know who is his grandmother, grandfather, great grandmother, great grandfather. That much lineage and details are not given because in fiction it is not required. But when you see in the Vedic literature, these things are detailed: 100 generation, 200 generation, name of the king, then wife, then how many sons are there. So by that we understand actually the Vedic scriptures are not mythology; they are the factual history. And similarly, Bhagavad Gita also, when we present the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita in a scientific manner to the students and to the teachers, they feel the connection, because normally people think that Bhagavad Gita is not connected to them. But actually, Krishna is just making Arjuna a medium to speak Bhagavad Gita to all of us, because Arjuna is his friend. So Krishna is making him the medium so that we can understand the life's problem. Like, for example, we can see Bhagavad Gita, Krishna spoke on the battlefield just before the battle started. Similarly, we are also in the situation when there are difficulties, and when we take shelter of Bhagavad Gita, we get the solution from Bhagavad Gita. So, like Bhagavad Gita presents us the solution for all the problems. We will see something. I will just share the screen, then we will discuss some of the points. Just a minute. Yeah, I hope it is visible to everyone. The screen is visible to everyone.
It's visible. It's visible, Swamiji.
Yeah. So first of all, we will just see what is written about Bhagavad Gita. That's this verse is written in the Gita Mahatmya, and this verse says, "Sarva Upanishado Gavo Dobdha Gopalanandana Patho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta Dugdham Gita Mitam Mahat." This verse says that Sarva Upanishado Gavo. Upanishad means the source of Vedic knowledge. If we consider all the Upanishad as cow, and Dogdha Gopalanandana, and Krishna becomes the Gopal. Krishna is naturally the cowherd person. He becomes the Gopal. And Parth Vatsa, and Arjuna becomes the calf. Sudhir Bhokta, and Arjuna is the calf, and Sudhir Bhokta means those who are the intelligent person, they are also taking that milk. So Krishna is milking the cow, and that cow is all Upanishad, the knowledge in all the Vedas and Upanishad, and the milk comes out as Bhagavad Gita, Dugdham Gita Mitam Mahat. So if we consider all the literatures as the cow, Bhagavad Gita is the milk coming from that, all the literature. That means it is the essence of all literature. Just in the first verse of Bhagavad Gita, it is mentioned that you will find Bhagavad Gita, everything which is given in other scriptures, plus you will also find something which are not mentioned anywhere. That's the specific standard of Bhagavad Gita. So then we will go requirement for understanding Bhagavad Gita. Some part we already discussed this thing. In just now, 2 minutes back, we discussed, is Bhagavad Gita real or symbolic? Many people, when they write commentary on Bhagavad Gita, they think that Bhagavad Gita can be interpreted in any way. Means, because biologically also we can understand that if I am speaking that, please give me the glass of water. That means I want a glass of water from you. This is the simple meaning. If somebody comes and says, no, you are not asking the glass of water. Actually, you are asking something else. So that is his personal interpretation. Similarly, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is speaking to Arjuna. So the direct meaning is that whatever Krishna is speaking, we should take it as it is. And many times Bhagavad Gita is being misinterpreted in different ways, just to suit our thinking, means what we think and we prove it. So the point is, Bhagavad Gita, we should follow what Krishna wants to say. We should not just uh, push Krishna away and present our propaganda. Recently, one of the very big scholar, he wrote Bhagavad Gita and he gave the name My Gita. He told it is not Bhagavad Gita, it is My Gita. So this is not good, because Bhagavad Gita is a literature which is Krishna is the teacher and Arjuna is the student. And through them, Krishna is teaching all of us how to handle the problems in life and how to attain the highest destination of human form of life. So this Bhagavad Gita is the historical dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna that happened 5,000 years ago. And we don't benefit so much when we don't take Bhagavad Gita literally. We just screw out some meaning, some Sanskrit word jugglery, because Sanskrit words, they have many meanings. One word may have many meanings. So we make some meaning from our mind and then we suit our needs. So that type of interpretation is not good. Bhagavad Gita should be accepted the way it was being spoken by the speaker, Krishna. The way he spoke, in that way we need to understand. So this is one of the requirements for understanding Bhagavad Gita. Why I am discussing this? Before discussing the principles of Bhagavad Gita, it's good to develop the faith that Bhagavad Gita is real and Bhagavad Gita is the history and Bhagavad Gita is the topmost literature. That's why this point is needed to stress upon, so that the future, whatever we will discuss, people, like, we will have the faith that these things are going on. Is Bhagavad Gita a mythology or a historical account? This is the letter given by Max Muller. He wrote to a friend, India is much riper for Christianity than Rome or Greece were at the time of St. Paul. He added that he would not like to go to India as a missionary because that would make him dependent on the government. His preference was this: I should like to live for the 10 years quietly and learn the language, try to make friends, and then see whether I was fit to take part in the work, by means of which the old mischief of Indian priestcraft could be overthrown and the way opened for the entrance of simple Christian teachings. So Bhagavad Gita forms the whole backbone of the Indian Vedic culture. Once importance of Bhagavad Gita is lost, people don't consider Bhagavad Gita as important. That means the foundation of Vedic culture is shaking. And that's what happened in the name of Bhagavad Gita, when they give the name that Bhagavad Gita is mythology, Bhagavat is mythology, Puran are mythology. So by giving that name, even Indians started believing that Bhagavad Gita is myth. It's only the fiction, it is only the imagination. And when Indians started believing their literatures as fiction, then they were not reading it. So soon the Vedic culture collapsed totally. Within 200-300 years, Vedic culture collapsed. We have the whole documentary of how the Vedic culture was collapsed. And now if we want to revive again the spiritual values, so Bhagavad Gita is the first literature which we should concentrate upon. Now, first we will discuss how Bhagavad Gita is relevant. Because nowadays we have so much faith on science that unless we explain the things in the scientific manner, people don't understand it. People take it as a mythology or fiction. So most important point for the students is how Bhagavad Gita is relevant to me. Okay, it was spoken 5,000 years back, but how it is relevant to me and how it is relevant to the society at large. Whatever problems we are facing all over the world, how Bhagavad Gita can solve those problems. So that's what in the coming slides we will see, relevance of Bhagavad Gita. We have invented TV, mobile, computers, cars. So all physical pains are gone from the body. Now the only problem is the pain has gone from the body to the mind in the form of stress. So without spiritual value, if we just work on the material values and becoming workaholic, and just it adds to the stress. we can see now everyone in a third person is stressed. Now the stress has become a big disease actually. Mental problems and stress, people kill each other out of stress. So by that we understand actually by technology we may get the comfort, but we cannot get the happiness. That's why when there was survey about the happiness index, America was not at top. America was way down. Some of the countries, those who are not so rich, they were on top. So without spirituality, we cannot be peaceful. Our mind cannot be peaceful. And Bhagavad Gita is the cream of spirituality. Bhagavad Gita has put a full stop to sufferings of people since time immemorial. It can solve the real problems of life, birth, death, old age, and disease, which scientific advancement cannot solve. So these are the four real problems. Four problems of life are those which are common to everyone. Nobody can avoid it, and nobody can, nobody wants it. So nobody wants to die, nobody wants to become old, nobody wants to become diseased. Nowadays, simple, small virus has penetrated the whole world. Whole world is fearful because of the small virus. So scientists, and now practically we have saw in the last 1 year that such a big scientific technology, they could not deal with one small virus and the whole world became locked down. That means these actual problems of life, they are not in our hand. Even if we get the vaccine for coronavirus, there will be another disease. Then there will be another disease. And no matter how much we can talk about death, that we will control death, death cannot be controlled. So these problems can be solved only by the spirituality. And also when we practice spirituality, when we practice the principles of Bhagavad Gita, we see the practical effect, practical benefit in our lifestyle, practical benefit in our way of dealing with others, our mental peace increases. Now, how Bhagavad Gita is relevant? This just one or two examples, because it's very difficult to cover the principles of Bhagavad Gita in one class, because Bhagavad Gita is a vast literature. I will just take the two examples how Bhagavad Gita is relevant for the students and for everyone. So this is one of the example. This is based on one of the sloka of Bhagavad Gita. That sloka comes in second and third chapter. One sloka in second and one sloka in third chapter. So we will just, this sloka is in, actually this whole slide is discussing how mind works, how intelligence works, and how senses work. And you will not believe it, all over the world people are using this concept for giving the seminars on power of habits. They give the seminar, they take the analysis from Bhagavad Gita, but they don't give the credit to Bhagavad Gita. When I was reading the book of 7 habits of highly effective people, so I saw that most of the concepts are taken from Bhagavad Gita, but there is no reference to Bhagavad Gita. So people use Bhagavad Gita concept on their name. Otherwise, most of the motivational seminars, power of habits, stress management, art of mind control, all these are based on the teachings from Bhagavad Gita. Teachings are coming from there, but people don't give the credit to Bhagavad Gita. This slide we can understand. I will just show the sloka on which the mind control is based. Mind control, all over the world, mind control is being taught by this sloka. This is the sloka. This comes in third chapter, 42 verse. Indriyani paranyaho, indriyebhya param manah, manasastu para buddhir, yo buddhe paratastu sa. It's very simple. And this is the sloka which most of the people are using for power of habits and habits rehabilitation programs. This sloka says, Indriyani paranyaho. The working senses are superior to dull matter. So matter is most inferior, then senses are superior to matter. And Indriyebhya param manah. Mind is higher than the senses. And intelligence is higher than the mind. And soul is higher than the intelligence. So this is giving the hierarchy of the things in the life, in our body. The most inferior is the matter. Above that is the senses. Above the senses are the mind. Above the mind is intelligence. Above the intelligence is the soul. Now we will see how this concept is being used in that slide. That slide is saying कि normally the person who is on the upper post, he should control the lower one, like the police inspector. He can control and guide the thanedar. So similarly, when we are saying that matter, above matter is the senses. So senses controls the matter, then mind should control the senses, intelligence should control the mind, and soul should control the intelligence. So now many people don't know what is mind and what is mind and what is intelligence, what is the difference between them. So mind is like the CPU of the laptop, CPU of the computer. Mind is a storehouse of thoughts, habits, unfulfilled desires, and previous experiences. And intelligence is the decision maker. So I will just give the example. Just like in computer science, you have seen there are gates, OR gates, NOR gates. These gates are there in computer science. So whenever we match the gate, if there is one, then there are two signals, 0 and 1. Based on that, those gates work. So mind is the storehouse. Whenever we have some experience, mind compares it with the previous experience. Suppose we are going to eat something in the restaurant. So we will just see the gulab jamun there, and our eyes sees the gulab jamun, and eyes comes and report to mind. And mind compares gulab jamun ki last time जब मैंने gulab jamun खाया था तो बहुत अच्छा लगा था. And mind becomes, the thought comes to enjoy gulab jamun. गुलाब जामुन खाने की इच्छा होती है. Then mind goes to intelligence, and intelligence says, see first, पैसा है जेब में कि नहीं है, और तुम्हें डायबिटीज तो नहीं है, दांत का प्रॉब्लम तो नहीं है. All these things intelligence checks, and when intelligence approve it, then mind says to the hand that take out the money and give to the person, and then hand gives to the person, and then we start eating. So this is all the thing going on. Mind is the storehouse, intelligence is the decision maker. So mind always nags like the small child to get different things, but it is the matter of intelligence. If our intelligence is strong, then we can control the bad desires of the mind. So for formula for forming the good habits are, our intelligence should be stronger than the mind. Suppose if intelligence has become weaker than the mind, then mind will control the intelligence and person will be degraded to the bad habits. That's the main cause, when intelligence becomes very weak and mind becomes very strong. How mind becomes strong? Uh, the whatever, in whichever association we are living, that creates the effect on the mind. Whatever food we are eating, that also create the impression. Whatever books we are reading, that also will create the impact. And whatever we are seeing, movies and different things, that also create the impact. That's why we say that good in, good out. गांधी जी के 3 बंदर आपने सुना होगा, बुरा मत देखो, बुरा मत कहो, बुरा मत बोलो. They are based on this concept, because when we do the bad thing, the impressions goes in the subconscious mind, and mind keeps them like a CPU, and later mind troubles us. So our intelligence should be strong. That's why we should read Bhagavad Gita strongly. Bhagavad Gita makes our intelligence strong, what should be done, what should not be done. And when intelligence is strong and mind says some things to do, and intelligence think that it is not good to do, then intelligence can control the mind. So those people who go in the bad habits, their intelligence has become weak because of not practicing spirituality, and their mind has become strong because of the bad association. That's why they are not able to control their habits, and they go down and they degrade their life. So this is the crux of the whole Power of Habit seminar. Strengthening the intelligence and giving the good input to the mind. Just this one slide, we sometimes we give this seminar for 3-4 hours. This is the part of the workshop of Power of Habit. Just this one slide is so deep, and this is coming from Bhagavad Gita, and this is teaching us so much valuable lesson to form the good habits. This is just the one verse, and like that there are 700 verses in Bhagavad Gita on different topics: mind, intelligence, art of eating, art of living, art of teaching, art of parenting. So many things are given. Mind control. This is also from another verse. This verse is saying, 5 senses are like the 5 horses. Mind is like the rein, lagam. Intelligence is like the uh, driver, and soul is the passenger. So we can imagine, if lagam is not there, if the rein is not there in the hand of the driver, so 5 horses will go in the 5 directions, and the chariot will go waywire, means it will not go anywhere, it will be destroyed. Similarly, so intelligence is the driver and mind is the lagam, rein. So by our mind intelligence, we should control the mind, and mind will control the senses. You see the connection? This is the same verse which we are talking about, third canto, for third chapter, 42 verse. And this gives us the analysis how to control the mind, how to control the stress, art of harnessing mind power. That seminar is based on this one sloka. And that seminar, when we do in the colleges, people think that from where you are speaking, and we say that this is from Bhagavad Gita, simple thing. Many times motivational speakers take big money for just for these things, but these things are easily available in the simple slokas of Bhagavad Gita. Now another example we will discuss. This is from our leadership seminar, principles of leadership from Bhagavad Gita. So this seminar, this slide gives how different people behave differently, and these things are given in 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. 3 types of people are there, and they have 3 different qualities. Like 14th chapter deals with 3 modes of nature. So one type of people, they comes in tamoguna, means mode of ignorance. So those people, tamoguna gives the 3 qualities: nidra, alasya, and pramad. Nidra means sleep, alasya means laziness, and pramad means pagalpan, madness. So, and we see these things in my college days. I have seen one person. One time they had a competition of sleeping. We used to stay in the hostel. So one person slept in the Saturday night, and he slept whole Sunday daytime, night time. Next day, Monday morning, he woke up. That means practically how many hours? 33 hours he slept. So this is the symptom of tamoguna. Too much sleeping. People waste time on sleeping. Mostly hostel students, they waste time on sleeping. Weekends sleeping. Then alasya. If somebody sleeps more, then he becomes lazy. So both things are there. If somebody sleeps more, he becomes lazy. If somebody sleeps less, he becomes crazy. That's why we should balance. That also is given in Bhagavad Gita 6th chapter, Yuktaha Viharasya. We should balance our eating habits. We should balance our entertaining habits. We should balance our endeavors, activities. All these things we should balance. That comes in 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So this verse is telling us the symptom of the people who are in tamoguna, and this is taken from Bhagavad Gita. When we will see these things, we will see how much relevant these things are to us. We also may perceive some qualities in us, and this analysis can then make us understand how to remove these things. These analysis we give for the leadership, because for leadership what qualities are required, those things we show by this chart. So tamoguna people are crazy because they are sleeping most of the time. They are not able to decide what to do. They are depressed. They are not able to decide what to do in their life. They are panicky. They become very fearful in small things. They are slow thinking. When somebody is very much sleepy, you go to him and ask something, he will not give answer. He is slow, very slow in thinking. Sometimes no thinking, doing the things without thinking, and then after lamenting. Then postponing, procrastination, postponing the things. आज किया है, काल करे तो परसों, जल्दी जल्दी क्यों करना है, अभी तो जीना है परसों. ये जो है ये फॉर्मूला एक्चुअली लेजी लोगों ने ही बनाया हुआ है. तो postponing, then hopelessness, this is also the symptom. Then insecurity comes in tamoguna. Means insecurity means कि अगर कोई स्टूडेंट, कोई मेरा फ्रेंड अगर मुझसे आगे निकल जाएगा तो फिर मेरा क्या होगा. दिस इज कॉल्ड इनसिक्योरिटी. टेंडेंसी फॉर पोस्ट एंड पोजीशन, कि मेरी पोस्ट का क्या होगा, अगर मुझसे जूनियर मुझसे आगे निकल गया तो कैसे करेंगे. कॉर्पोरेट्स में ऐसा होता था. मैं जब कंपनी में रहता था तो मैंने देखा किसी का अगर प्रमोशन होता था तो उसके साथ वाले उससे जलने लगते थे और फिर कुछ ना कुछ उसका काम बिगाड़ते थे जिससे उसका डिमोशन हो जाए. दैट कम्स इन तमोगुणा. इनसिक्योरिटी, कंपटीशन, इनसिक्योरिटी, लेजीनेस, ये सब तमोगुण के लक्षण है. देन सुसाइडल थॉट्स, they are also coming by tamoguna. Crying, suicides are so common now. Previously in the colleges, I remember that there was a big controversy in somebody died in IIT in 90s actually. But now every year students die, nobody cares. So the people are going in tamoguna so much. Then one of the nature of tamoguna is selfish. People are selfish in tamoguna. Similarly, rajoguna comes with different qualities that is given also in the next verse in Bhagavad Gita. रजोगुना comes with attachment. अटैचमेंट को मतलब होता है आसक्ति. आसक्ति को कैसे समझ सकते हैं, जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल कोई बहुत बड़ा बिजनेसमैन है और उस बिजनेसमैन का बिजनेस में लॉस होता है. आजकल तो इंटरनेट बैंकिंग रहता है, वो केवल अपना नेट बैंकिंग चालू करता है तो देखता है उसके अकाउंट में से 0 कम होते जा रहे हैं. सो हिज बॉडी इज नॉट डैमेज्ड, जस्ट बाय सीइंग ऑन द लैपटॉप हिज इंटरनेट बैंकिंग ही गेट्स हार्ट अटैक. दिस इज द कॉज ऑफ अटैचमेंट. अटैचमेंट मतलब आप किसी चीज से अपने आप को इतना ज्यादा आइडेंटिफाई करते हैं कि उसके बिना हम रह नहीं पाते. सो दैट इज कॉल्ड अटैचमेंट. दैट इज द नेचर ऑफ रजोगुना. Somebody is attached to wealth, somebody is very attached to properties, somebody is very attached to his car, somebody is attached to his dog. So that attachment comes by rajoguna. Then passion is also rajoguna. Greedy for means greedy means lobhi vyakti. No matter how much you can give to him, he will not be satisfied. It is said that in this world there is sufficient for everyone's need, but for one man's greed. Then attachment to honor, prestige and status. This is called puja labh pratishtha. This is the symptom of rajoguna. Over ambitious, lusty, angry. Bhagavad Gita speaks about Bhagavad Gita speaks about this anger and lust in 2nd chapter. You want to see that? That's also very important sloka. We will just see, not much discuss. That comes in 2nd chapter, 62nd verse. No, 3rd chapter also. 3rd chapter, 36 verse. See, this is the definition of lust given in Bhagavad Gita. Kama esa krodha esa rajoguna samudbhava mahasano mahapapma vidhenam ehvavinam. It is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with the material mode of passion and later transformed into wrath, and it is the all-devouring sinful enemy of the world. When a living entity comes in contact with the material creation, his eternal love is transformed in the lust. Love of Godhead becomes transformed in the lust. So lust is the part of Rajoguna. And when lust is not satisfied, then it becomes Tamoguna. So lusty and angry. When lust is not satisfied, we become angry. When lust is satisfied, we become greedy. So lust gives birth to both anger and greed. Then competitive drive, seeing and showing glamour, grabbing the credit. Grabbing the credit means the credit doesn't belong to us, but we want to get it at any cost. Snap decision, courage, boldness, firmness. These are coming from Rajoguna. Then Sattoguna, person is cheerful, calm, clear, creative thinking, humility. Regarding humility, there is one sloka, Vidya dadati vinayam vinayate yati patratam. The knowledge should give humility. Just like when the tree is filled with fruits, it bends down. Similarly, those who are filled with knowledge, they become humble. So if some knowledge is giving us pride, that means that is not the actual knowledge. That may be called ignorance. I remember when I was in NIT, in first year, second year, because NIT Bhopal was NITs those days were the very prestigious colleges in 2000, around 15-16 years back. So in Bhopal, when we used to go to city bus, we had little pride. Those I am studying in NIT and I am such a big person. So this type of pride,
ये
if it
report
is
देखो,
coming, yes,
report देखना है.
I couldn't hear, sir. To say something. Hare Krishna. Okay. So, Vidya Dadati Vinayam. Knowledge should give rise to humility. If it is giving rise to pride, then it is not knowledge, because by humility we get the qualification to attract other peoples. By pride we cannot attract others. Pride makes us fall down. And Sattva gives simplicity, tolerance, compassion, cooperative, team playing. The person who is in Sattva, he knows to cooperate with others, and he thinks that my way is not the highway. Normally people think that whatever I think, it is good, it is true, and others should cooperate with me, but that's not true. We are not always right, so it needs Sattva to understand and to play in the team, to become the team player. Then kindness, tolerance, innovative, wisdom, selfless, cleanliness, friendly, thinking and acting, politeness. So by these analysis, then we can understand the ideal leader should having which qualities. You all also can understand easily. Ideal leader should be the mixture of Sattva and some qualities of Rajoguna. We can see some qualities of Rajoguna like courage, boldness, and firmness. These are very nice quality. Leaders should have these qualities, and all these other qualities of Sattva he should have. That's why previously the leaders used to be called Rajarsi, Raja and Rishi. Raja was in passion, Rajoguna, and Rishi was in Sattva. So Raj Rishi, he should have Sattva, he should have Rajoguna. And Rajoguna being dovetailed in Sattva. That's the proper leadership. And this whole leadership seminar goes through different workshops actually. This is the seminar we gave last year in one of the MBA colleges for the MBA second year students, Principles of Leadership. That was the 3-hour seminar. I just took 2-3 slides from that seminar. So by these things, we understand from the Bhagavad Gita how we understand what are the actual leadership principles and how to understand leadership formulas from Bhagavad Gita. Now next point comes, it is scientific. Is it scientific to accept not the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita? So every religion has two parts actually, religion and philosophy. Just like every science has two parts, theory and practice. We read something, some concepts in the book, then we go to the lab and then experiment the follow. Like we see the Ohm's law in physics, and then we go in the lab and then we discuss, make the graph between voltage and current. And if graph comes out at the straight line, then the Ohm's law is verified. V equal to Ki or IR. R is resistance. So similarly, every science has these two components, theory and practice. Similarly, spirituality also has these two components, spirit and rituals. Means spirit means the philosophy behind, and ritual means the physical activity which we see. So religion should have the philosophy, and practice of the philosophy is like the laboratory practices. So that's why spirituality is also the science, because it has the two components, religion and philosophy. And this sentence is very important. Religion without philosophy is sentimentalism, and philosophy without religion is mental speculation. When there is religion but there is no philosophical understanding, it becomes the sentimentalism. We have seen so many bogus people came as a Babaji and other people, and sentimental people followed them, and eventually those Babajis became corrupt and they went in the jail, but still people are following because they don't have any philosophy. They are just following religion, sentimentalism. Like in India, you see in the night, you put some stone, take some stone and put it to the lal color, you put the sindoor and put it on in the tree, near the tree, and people will come and start making temple there. So that's why religion without philosophy is also not good. When we are following the spirituality, we should know the scriptures. The philosophy should be clear. And second point, philosophy without religion is also not good. If you have only philosophy, many people, they speak from Bhagavad Gita very thoroughly, but you see in their life they are doing sinful activity. They are eating meat, they are doing different things. So they just know the philosophy, but they don't practice the philosophy. So spirituality includes both religion and philosophy. That's why it is the science. So we should have practices based on the philosophy which is given in Bhagavad Gita and other Vedic literatures. Then it is called actual spirituality. This statement you can write down. This is very nice statement. Religion without philosophy is sentimentalism. Philosophy without religion is mental speculation. Just some years back, I saw in Pune or somewhere, they during Ganesh Utsav, they put bat and ball because it was the World Cup season. So they put bat ball in Ganesha's hand. This is not given in any scripture. So this is just a disturbance actually on the name of religion. When we are following the spirituality, we should follow it according to the scriptures, not according to our mind, what our mind is saying. And very world-renowned personalities like Albert Einstein, Henry David Thoreau, Mahatma Gandhi, and Newton, they have expressed their deep appreciation for Bhagavad Gita. And those who meditate on Bhagavad Gita, they will derive fresh joy and new meaning from Bhagavad Gita every day. No matter how much you read Bhagavad Gita, you will derive great joy. Like I am personally reading Bhagavad Gita from last 15 years. And I may have read many times because once in 6 months we complete one course on Bhagavad Gita. So I may have read maybe 20 times, 25 times, but still when I read now, it is always new. It gives the new meaning because these are the ever fresh word of God. When he speaks, every time when you sincerely read it, you get new guidance in the life. Mahatma Gandhi used to say this: whenever doubt comes in my heart, I just open Bhagavad Gita and start reading it, and those doubts are eradicated. I become totally peaceful and I become jubilant. So that's why Bhagavad Gita is the greatest science. The great people like Mahatma Gandhi, Srila Prabhupada, Albert Einstein, Albert Schweitzer, Emerson, they have read Bhagavad Gita and they have applied Bhagavad Gita in their life. They got benefit from their life. And so many Western people are now reading Bhagavad Gita. What to call of Indian people? So many Western people. When you go to Vrindavan, you see so many Western people are living permanently in Vrindavan. They are not getting facilities like they get in America or London, but they are living in Vrindavan easily and chanting Krishna's name, Lord's name, and reading Bhagavad Gita. It's so amazing. But Indian people, this is the irony of India, that Indian people are thinking that Bhagavad Gita is not important, and Bhagavad Gita is just a mythology, and there's no need to read it. When I was discussing with one person about Bhagavad Gita, so he frankly told कि ये तो बुढ़ापे का काम है, मुझे अभी मत सिखाओ. And you can imagine what was the age of that person. That person's age was 65 years, and he was telling मैं तो अभी बुढ़ा नहीं हुआ हूँ, अभी तो मैं जवान हूँ, जब मैं बुढ़ा होऊंगा तो भगवद गीता पढ़ूंगा. And this where I was, it was in New Delhi actually. So now we need to revive the message of spirituality based on Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita should be on the core. And I can guarantee if somebody reads Bhagavad Gita thoroughly, he will understand everything. All problems of life, he can, just based on some slokas of Bhagavad Gita, he can eradicate all problems, whether it is pollution problem, whether it is stress problem, mental problem, intellectual problem, spiritual problem, all problems of the world are eradicated by Bhagavad Gita. And like in the subsequent classes, whenever we will get opportunity, we will discuss those things, because as I said before, that it's not possible to discuss Bhagavad Gita, and we have the systematic courses also on Bhagavad Gita, because this is a big literature, 700 verses, it takes time. So I just gave the gist of basic concepts of Bhagavad Gita, and I didn't want to take the long time intentionally, because I have seen now the attention span of the audience is also going down. If you take classes more than 40 minutes, then students start seeing the watch कि कब खत्म होगा, कब भागने मिलेगा. This is so that keeping that in mind, I didn't want that it should go long. We should cover the topic within the time limit, and people should also be interested to hear, so that next time when we start giving, they will be enthusiastic. Suppose if I give a big class now, next time जब कभी अगर पवन सर बताएंगे कि उनको बुला रहे हैं, तो सभी लोग बोलेंगे नहीं नहीं नहीं, इतना लंबा क्लास देते हैं. So it's better to give the basic things, important things within the time limit, so that the people will not feel bored. So that was my motive. That's why I gave the basics of Bhagavad Gita. And this is the one of the just a small concept that the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says to follow his instructions, surrender to him, because we are all soul, we are not the body. That was the primary teaching of Bhagavad Gita. And when we understand that we are the soul and we are the servant of God, then we serve him, and by his service all this lust, anger, greed, pride, envy, illusion, all these things are destroyed, and we realize that we are the soul. Just like if some on the mirror we see something and the mirror is very dusty, then we will not be able to see ourselves. So for seeing through mirror, it is required that we clean the mirror. So reading Bhagavad Gita and following spiritual practices cleans our heart. Our heart is also filled by the dust of lust, anger, greed, pride, envy, illusion. Kam, krodh, lobh, moha, mad, matsarya. These 6 things are making our heart dirty. So we need to clean that by spiritual practice. And when heart is clean, then we will understand ourselves as the soul. That's the simple process of spirituality. And by reading and practicing Bhagavad Gita, we get that destination. So that's the goal of Bhagavad Gita. Thank you very much. I hope I didn't bore all of you. And I just presented some concepts. And thank you, Pawan sir, for giving me the opportunity once again.
It was wonderful insights, Swamiji. For all the audience, those who are listening us on the various platforms today, on the Zoom as well as on Facebook Live, I'm very much sure they are going to be enlightened and they are going to read Srimad Bhagavad Gita. It is such a book. In the first reading, definitely it's very difficult to understand the essence of such a pious literature. But once you start reading it, and as H.G. Vamsidhari Prabhuji mentioned very clearly, that majority of the problems, it may be in the form of question, it may be in the form of confusion, it may be in the form of ambiguity, depression, or whatever it is, you are going to get the answer. At the very initial level, Swamiji mentioned that as a parent, as a teacher, as a professional, as a working professional or retired person, if you want to guide your family members, the members of society, and members of your organization, a very apt slok, yad charati shrestasta devetaro janah sa yat pramanam kurte lokastan vartate. For whatever a great man does, that very thing all other men also do. Whatever standard he sets up, the generality of men follow the same. आप जो करेंगे, जो भी व्यक्ति आपको आदर्श मानते हैं, चाहे आपके छोटे भाई बहन या आपको परिवार के दूसरे सदस्य या समाज के सदस्य या तो आपके ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के लोग या आपके टीम के मेंबर्स, हर एक व्यक्ति वही करेगा जो आप करते हैं. अध्याय नंबर 3 श्लोक नंबर 21 में भगवान श्री कृष्ण इस चीज को बहुत ही अच्छे से इसको एक्सप्लेन करते हैं. आज का सेशन अद्भुत, अविस्मरणीय है. मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि हर एक व्यक्ति जिन्होंने आज का यह सेशन अटेंड किया है, उसके जीवन का ये एक अद्भुत क्षण है. मैं स्पिरिचुअल लीडरशिप एंड टेम्पल मैनेजमेंट कंटिन्यूइंग एजुकेशन के तहत पारुल यूनिवर्सिटी के अंतर्गत आपने जो कार्यक्रम अटेंड किया, इसके लिए आपका आभारी हूं. हमारे बीच में डॉक्टर विजय कुमार सर, रजिस्ट्रार सर हैं. आप श्री डॉक्टर विजय कुमार सर is there among us. I request sir for your kind words and blessings on this auspicious occasion, that is Dev Diwali, Prakashva, and the Janam Jayanti of Guru Nanak Dev.
Thank you, Prabhupada sir. Happy Dev Diwali to all. Swami ji नमस्कार. जो आप अभी 40 मिनट के लिए जो कहा भगवद गीता से, in fact I agree with everything what you said. Personally speaking, we have all the 18 ventos of Bhagavata written by Swamiji of ISKCON in our house, because my wife is an ardent follower of that and she has completed reading all the 18 ventos. That's something like 1800 verses. And she keeps telling me about what she read and what experience she has. So I could connect myself with whatever was being said. Now, especially to our youngsters, as you rightly put, that we cannot keep on talking to them for hours at end about this. We will have to do this in bits, and if we do it in bits, naturally, their interest in this they can also catch. All in all, I had a very, very useful listening session to you, Swamiji. I hope we will have more and more sessions on Bhagavata and Bhagavad Gita. And I'm sure our Pawan Dwivedi sir, along with the CEP, he will be able to organize more sessions. Especially our students are likely to come back by about second week of December. So when once they come, then we will be able to hold more and more sessions like this. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Sadhuwad, sadhuwad. On behalf of entire Parul University, I'm really thankful to Swamiji, as our President, Honorable Dr. Devanshu Patel sir, he has inspired us to ensure that our students should be well equipped, not only by theoretical knowledge, by technical knowledge, industry exposure, sports, from all the aspects. At the same time, they should be spiritually strong. And that is the mission and vision of Parul University. We are having students from across India, more than 56 nationals, and as a result, the cosmopolitan environment we have created over here, we would like to provide that benefit to each and everyone, and henceforth, it was a great time to us to listen SG वंशीधारी प्रभु जी आज के इस पवित्र पावन अवसर पर मैं प्रत्येक विद्यार्थी और पूरे मैनेजमेंट, अध्यापक, डीन, प्रिंसिपल्स, पूरे मैनेजमेंट की तरफ से आपका आभारी हूं। आपने अपना अमूल्य समय हमको दिया, मैं आपका आशीर्वाद लेना चाहता हूं और मैं आज के इस पवित्र पावन अवसर पर भविष्य में वापस आपकी इस वचन को हमको सुनने का अवसर प्राप्त करें। इस वचन के साथ मैं आज के सेशन को अंत करना चाहूंगा, तो मैं आपका आज्ञा लेता हूं और इसी के साथ प्रत्येक विद्यार्थी, प्रत्येक व्यक्ति जिन्होंने सुना, आप सबका मैं आभारी हूं। आपके बेहतर भविष्य के लिए प्रभु से कामना करता हूं। पारुल यूनिवर्सिटी की तरफ से आपको मैं ढेर सारी बधाइयां देता हूं, बेस्ट विशेष देता हूं। धन्यवाद।
धन्यवाद सर।